How can the theology of the body strengthen our marriages? Well, let's really delve into that one. That is a big, open-ended question. The theology of the body, first, this is study of God as that study relates to our bodies, our bodily experience as men and women called to become one flesh and to be fruitful and multiply. That is the essence of marriage, after all. The fundamental difference between men and women is sexual gametes, meaning sperm and egg uniting, but not just the physical, biological raw material to create new life, but the natural order by which a man's body is created to do something. So, for instance, the most fundamental difference between men and women is that a man's body is naturally ordered toward generating the new life, right? A woman's body is naturally ordered toward gestation, so she actually develops and forms that child within after it has been generated from the union of sperm and egg. So even if a man doesn't have sperm because he's infertile, or a woman has fertility issues as well, their bodies, if they were functioning the way they were meant to function, are still naturally ordered toward those same ends. And so men and women are the kind of people, or the kind of being, that are capable of creating the next generation through their cooperation with one another. And it is the only physical system in the human body, biologically, that needs another person to operate as it was intended. The respiratory system, the skeletal system, the nervous system, none of those need another person to operate as they were designed to operate individually, independently. But the sexual organ, the reproductive organ, requires the cooperation of another human being, another person of the other sex, to fulfill its intended purpose. So when we divorce that from that cooperation, we create this division, this barrier, this sense of isolation, where we actually turn inward on ourselves and turn the whole purpose of our sexual organ not toward reproduction, the natural end, but this unnatural focus on pleasure, where suddenly pleasure becomes the entire point. So we miss out on the person. So what does theology of the body have to do with marriage? It has to do with the fact that men and women were created by God to be married to one another and to God, and that their marriage, the marriage of Genesis, is meant to help generate the next generation, using our genitals so that we can have progeny. That's what the word gender often means as well, the manner in which one generates. And so to understand the beauty of marriage requires us to go back to the beginning as God intended it, as he created our bodies to operate. A man's body doesn't make sense by itself. A woman's body doesn't make sense by itself. But seen in light of each other, unless we are spiritually blind to this, we are literally able to recognize God's original plan for our flourishing, not just through the creation of a new life, but through the true, full expression of authentic love. And as John Paul II said, our sex helps us to fulfill the very meaning of our being and existence. That's what sex ultimately means. And that is at the heart of marriage, because sex is the marriage vows made flesh. When we understand our sexual identity as a man or as a woman, and then we enter into that covenantal love that a man and woman have with one another, then that covenantal love is most fully expressed in sexual intercourse, in the consummation of the marriage vows. That is how marriage is connected to the theology of the body. But only if we are willing to enter into that journey, to be purged, to be cleansed, to be healed. And whether or not we are married, whether we've been divorced or experienced that, if we're a priest or a nun, religious brother or sister, everyone is called to marriage in some way, because marriage, the marriage of Genesis, is really just a foreshadowing, a sign of the marriage of the Lamb in Revelation. That God has revealed the ultimate purpose of marriage in this world, because it's a sign pointing us to the ultimate marriage that God wants to have with us in heaven for all eternity. God wants to marry us. That is the best way to sum up how the theology of the body is connected to marriage. God wants to marry you. Are you willing to accept that proposal throughout this life so that you can have great hope for that eternal consummation, that commitment in heaven with God and one another in the communion of saints and all the angels for all eternity?